We're told Atlantis is a fairy tale, a moral fable. But if Plato invented it, he managed to do something strictly impossible. In his dialogues written around 360 BC, Plato describes the destruction of this lost civilization with the precision of a historian. He dates the event exactly 9,000 years before the time of the Greek statesman Solon. Solon visited Egypt around 600 BC. That places the destruction of Atlantis at exactly 9,600 BC. For 2,000 years, historians laughed at this date. In the view of conventional history, 9,600 BC was the Stone Age, long before sophisticated cities. The date was dismissed as a narrative exaggeration. Then came the ice core samples from Greenland. We now know the last ice age ended in a violent kinetic spasm called the Younger Dryas. When we look for the exact date of the most catastrophic moment, the spike that melted the ice caps, the data points to one specific window. Meltwater Pulse 1b, the single greatest rise in sea levels in human history. It occurred exactly at 9,600 BC. This creates a paradox. How did a Greek philosopher lacking any modern geology pinpoint the precise year of the end of the Ice Age? He didn't guess. He was remembering. Welcome to Beyond the Pillars. Here, we don't chase myths. We chase data. We solve the mystery of Atlantis. We have to stop looking for a magical sunken city and start looking for a wreckage of a real civilization erased from the map. To understand where to look, we gotta return to the source. The story starts in Egypt. Around 600 BC, Solon traveled to Dryas in the Nile Delta. There, the high priests of the temple of Neith mocked him. "You Greeks are always children. You have no antiquity of history." They explained that humanity is often destroyed by cataclysms, but Egypt remembered. They opened their records and described a wealthy, technically advanced naval empire that controlled the Atlantic. Skeptics claim Plato wrote a fable, but evidence predates him by 50 years. The historian Herodotus created a map of the known world around 450 BC. In North Africa, he explicitly labels a people known as the Atlantes living near the Atlas Mountains. The name existed before the myth. The name was real, the date is science. What about the location? If you follow the forensic details in Plato's text, they don't point to the bottom of the ocean, they point to the Sahara Desert. Hidden in the remote sands of the Mauritania lies a formation that has baffled scientists since the Gemini missions, the Richat Structure, or the Eye of the Sahara. It is a massive, deeply eroded geological dome 25 miles across. When we overlay Plato's description of the capital onto this structure, the similarities shift from coincidence to statistical impossibility. Plato doesn't describe a solid island, he describes a series of concentric rings. There were alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, surrounding one another. There were 2 of land and 3 of water, which were turned as if with a lathe. Look at the Richat structure. It's defined by its concentric circles, deep rings of rock alternating with valleys where water once flowed. The geometry is a match, but we need measurements. In the text, Critias, Plato states the outer circular wall measured 127 stadia. Converted to modern metrics, that equals roughly 23.5 kilometers. When we measure the outer circular ridge of the Richat using satellite imagery, the diameter is almost exactly 23.5 kilometers. It's not an approximation, it's a forensic match. Plato goes further. He says that the Atlanteans quarried stone of 3 specific colors: white, black, and red. Geological surveys of the Richat confirm the rings are composed of black dolerite, red quartzite, and white limestone. The very building blocks of the legend are the geological reality of the site. Plato's inventory goes beyond geology. He describes a citadel coated in orichalcum, a metal second only to gold. He describes a central temple of Poseidon featuring a colossal statue of the god driving 6-winged horses. These are the specific memories of a civilization that understood metallurgy and monumental architecture long before history says they should. He even describes the water. Plato states that on the central island, there was a spring of fresh water distinct from the surrounding seawater. Today, in the dead center of the Richat, there is still a single freshwater spring. The surrounding wells yield salt water. The geometry matches, the dimensions match, the materials match, the hydrology matches. Critics rightly point out that we haven't found the pillars of gold or the triremes Plato described. However, we have found something else. The Richat structure is littered with stone tools. Not just a few, but thousands. It's considered one of the most concentrated sites of Acheulean artifacts in Africa. We find spearheads, scrapers, and arrowheads scattered across the rings. While mainstream archaeology dates these to a much older primitive era, their sheer density proves this location was a massive hub of human activity, a factory of production sitting precisely where the legend claims the capital stood. So why is the Richat structure not universally accepted as the ruins of Atlantis? Because of where it is. The Richat is in the middle of the Sahara Desert, 300 miles from the ocean and 1,200 feet above sea level. It seems impossible, a city of ships in the sea of sand. But 10,000 years ago, this region was the Green Sahara, a lush savanna network of mega lakes and torrential rivers. Plato specifically notes the island abounded with elephants. For centuries, this detail was dismissed as fantasy, yet fossil records prove that during the Green Sahara era, this specific region supported vast herds of elephants. The biological reality of the landscape matches the ancient description perfectly. If you examine the Richat, you find massive white patches of salt called sabkas and fossils of sea snakes. This structure was once underwater. Geological studies suggest the Trans-Saharan Seaway once connected this region to the ocean. It's entirely possible that the Richat was once an estuary or an island structure connected to the Atlantic. We're not looking for a city that sank, we're looking for a city that was stranded. So how does a civilization this advanced simply vanish? Plato gives us the answer. In a single day and night of misfortune, the island of Atlantis disappeared in the depth of the sea. Return to 9600 BC. The younger Dryas ends, the ice sheets collapse. This wasn't a slow tide, it was a kinetic event. A wall of water would have swept through North Africa. If a civilization was nesting in the Richat, the meltwater pulse would have obliterated it, scouring the stone and burying the rest in mud. And this is the final clue. Plato writes that after Atlantis sank, the ocean at that spot became impassable because of a shoal of mud left behind. He's describing a post-tsunami wasteland, a churned-up landscape of drying silt that made navigation impossible. When the waters receded, the Green Sahara dried up. The lush empire turned to dust. We have the date, the map, the physical wreckage. Is the Eye of the Sahara definitely Atlantis? Mainstream science calls it a natural formation, but it is the only place on Earth that respects every single word of Plato's text. The concentric rings, the diameter, the colored stone, the freshwater spring, the timeline. We've been treating Atlantis as a fantasy, but the evidence suggests it's a forgotten chapter of human history, closed by a cataclysm we're only now just beginning to understand. The sands of Mauritania are shifting. Every year, more of the structure is revealed. The truth is not lost, it's just buried. Here at Beyond the Pillars, our mission's to move beyond speculation. Our ultimate goal is to fund AtlantisX, buying a research boat to search the world for the true remains of Atlantis. Building this community is the first step. If you want to be part of this mission, subscribe to the channel and help us build the resources to find the truth.